So what should be your recovery strategy? We are talking about the steps you should take in case something goes wrong, how soon you would be able to recover. So these are common strategies which customers follow, and it can be implemented differently in different cloud provider or different on-prem system. Let's talk about these strategies first. So be aware, I am focusing on these strategies. How you implement it, what solution you use will purely depend on the technology you are using or the outcome you want to achieve. So the most common one or low hanging fruit as we call it is backup and restore. I'll explain each of them, so don't worry. Then this can be for lot of applications in your environment, but it may be giving you RPO, RTO of hours probably. And then if you need little lesser than that, you may leverage a strategy which is called pilot light, or you may create a fully working low capacity standby, or you may go ahead and use something called multi-site active. And as I have placed them into order, like this is the easiest one, little difficult, more difficult, much more difficult, and same applies to less cost, little more cost, much higher cost. So this is how all these things work. The most common strategy which customers follow is backup and restore, and every organization would be maintaining backup and have abilities to restore in case something goes wrong. When you talk to backup experts, they would probably talk about 3-2-1 rule. This is an old school approach, still relevant to understand the impact which may happen. So we talk about 3-2-1 rule. That rule says maintain at least 3 copies of your data. So if you want to have peace of mind and ability to recover from most scenarios which may occur, we need to ensure that we follow some rule. And one of the rule is to maintain 3 copies of your data. So what I mean by that okay, you have 1 copy which is already running in production, and along with that you should have 2 more copies of your data. So that we mean by maintain at least 3 copies of your data. That is what we should be focusing on. Second is on 2 different media. This is the old school rule when we used to have backup on tape media, or we used to have backup onto optical drives or magnetic disk. So that's why it says on 2 different media. Idea is we are trying to isolate problems which may occur because of a media failure. If one type of media failed, let's say magnetic disk are all gone, maybe I could recover from optical disk. So that is where the thought process come from, that we should have it on 2 different media, and at least one of the copy should be kept off site. If your backup is in the same building and the building was on flood or fire, then the backup would be lost also. So best would be that if we could keep that backup into a building away from it. Lot of time in old days companies used to ship the tape, so they would take backup, and then those tape drives on which the backup was taken, they would be shipped overnight to another facility, and then another team may perform a restore or verify it and then keep it for any future usage. So that used to happen. So this is a common approach which customers follow, backup and restore, 3-2-1 rule. So when you want to perform backup, probably you would be needing a software who would take backup. What type of software, what configuration, it purely depends, but there are a lot of solutions available by the service provider like cloud providers, or third party solution for your on-prem environment you could have used. I am focusing here on AWS solution just to give an idea that how it looks like, but depending on which cloud provider you are going for or what type of strategy you want, it can vary. So if I'm focusing on AWS environment, we focus here like, okay, I have on-prem environment, I want to take a backup, and in case something goes wrong with my on-prem environment, I want to recover it into a AWS region. So in on-prem environment, I would have some backup software. You call it semantic backup, or you talk about EMC solution, or you talk about Veeam as a backup provider, you talk about Avamar as a solution. There can be different type of backup solution or software you could have used, and now these will help you to perform backup. Through this backup software, you would have integration probably to send data directly to cloud. Like most backup provider now understand cloud resources like Amazon S3 or Google Drive, where they can store the information. So my data can be backed up directly into cloud, In case your backup software is not smart enough to understand native cloud resources, maybe you can leverage a solution from AWS which is called AWS Storage Gateway, which mimics the on-prem storage, but it copies data into the backend into regions. So then storage gateway either would be used to send data, or you would be sending data directly to these services like S3, EBS, EFS, or Amazon FSx. And if something goes wrong, let's say one of the server got crashed or it got corrupted, you would be able to restore this information back from your region to your on-prem environment. Should not be a problem. So this is a common strategy which you could have used. But what if there was a problem with the data center itself? The data center itself is not coming up. Maybe power connection issues or maybe network connectivity. What you may probably be able to do, like if these are standard machines which you are running on-prem, like VMware machines, or you had your physical machines running in, you would be able to perform a restore of the backup on a equivalent EC2. So let's say I have a web server here, which was SQL server, which was running Windows as an operating system, which had 16 CPU and which had a disk space of 80 GB. What I could do, I could create a similar machine in Amazon EC2 service and then restore my backup solution onto that machine and get my application running again. So we could have leveraged that. Now, it can also happen that you are doing everything into cloud. You do not have on-prem also. You still want to perform backup. Answer is yes. If you are storing your data into cloud providers environment, it does not mean that you do not need to take backup of that. So let's say I'm already running everything on Amazon EC2. I would still perform backup of whatever I have on Amazon EC2, all the EBS volume or FSx volume, I would have backup. And most of the time, it is just one checkbox you do or select into a setting configuration, which will enable backup for you based on the schedule you define. Here, I am focusing on a service which is called AWS Backup, and through this service, you can schedule backup and take repetitive backup on a daily basis or a weekly or hourly basis depending on your requirement. And if you want, you could keep the same backup into same region, but in case you feel what if the region also goes down, you could use AWS backup to transfer that backup into a cross region replication. So in that case, if something goes wrong, I would be able to recover from it. Should not be an issue at all. So this is a traditional backup and restore. What if I am not using cloud services at all? No problem. You could have had another data center or another location where you could have copied your backup and you could then restore from there. So it's called disaster recovery, DR site, as sometimes people call it, DR sites. And from that DR site, you should be able to recover provided you have stored backup in that location. So this is the simplest strategy you could start is backup and restore. And I would say a lot of your applications would align to this backup and restore. And obviously you could decide what frequency you need. So hope this thing is clear. First strategy we discuss is backup and restore. We'll talk about other strategies as we move forward.